Thanks. I put the blog in. I put the podcast in, which helps.
Hey, I put my pants on today.
Man.
Where's that barf bag?
This is Josh's last show, guys. So
Oh, I guess Mike's all upset about it. He just left.
Josh, yeah, Mike just took him.
Barf bag.
Yeah. Josh has taken the time to decide that he wants to move on to another responsibility, and he'll be back though. We're gonna have Josh back on special assignments, and this is a. I'm waiting for this show. Just forget it.
Guys, I can't help it. I've been offered the Leafs GM job. I got to take it.
Yeah, they won't let you stay. You're the second person today who's told me that they're not allowed to work for HockeyBuzz if they take the Leafs GM jobs. That sucks.
Guaranteed another 46 years of losing if Josh is the next Leaf GM. Jesus Christ.
No, Josh has a family history in hockey. He's gonna he's gonna be very successful as Leafs GM.
They have a rhymer in net and a rhymer running the team.
That's right, a rimmer and a rhymer.
Rimmer and rhymer.
All right, let's begin the show. Shall we?
Mm.
We've got a lot to talk about. Here we go. Kevin might be joining us at some point. I really don't know. He's in Nashville, and we were going to do the show later today, like we had done it in the past. But I have a family responsibility myself later, and we had time now, so we'll have Kevin jumping on, or we'll see what happens here as we go play. But here we go. It's the
17th.
Thanks. Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday, April 17th, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Ty Anderson.
And I'm Josh Rimmer.
And I am Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you once a day, and I want to play our new theme song to prove
come
that.
on.
Oh, come on, you got it. It's too good. It's too good. We got
It's too good because it mentions Eklund every 5 seconds.
No, someone sent this to me, and they took the time to do it. Monique's really cool. So here we go. Welcome to the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. And I am Eklund, and welcome to the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. And I am Eklund, and welcome to the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. And I am Eklund, and welcome to the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast where we come to you every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. or thereabouts to talk about the hockey world.
Sounds like Devo.
But it's the short version. It's like Cheers. We don't play the whole thing anymore, but that's it.
You should wear those sunglasses that you were wearing a couple days ago, and play that song because it sounds like Devo. There you go. There you go.
Ty, if I was your age and I was in shape and had a personality, could I walk in? Could I get me some Bruins Babe fans with these glasses? Do you think? Have a shot?
You're asking the wrong guy. Everyone hates me. That's the wrong question.
See, this is not. This is totally uncool because
those glasses on. You couldn't get anything with those glasses. Nothing.
No, these are amazing. First of all, incredible coverage.
Guys, can I make a confession?
No.
That's a really loaded question, Josh. But we're not going to talk about any of the other stuff we talked about off the air before, right?
No.
Okay, go ahead then.
Well, I've snuck into the NHL offices and I've stolen all their ping pong balls.
Nice.
Oh, there goes one.
There goes Arizona's.
Wow, one can only wonder why a person like Todd would have a bin of ping pong balls. A person like Josh.
Josh.
Have a bin of ping pong. Sorry, thrown. Okay, so yeah.
Reimer.
Ty, this doesn't make any sense because Ty is the hippest, best-looking person on the HockeyBuzzCast, and for crying out loud, you're always.
That's not tough to do.
That's not hard to do. I mean, look what you're going against. But you definitely, you should know. You should be able to tell me. Someday Ty and I will go cruising for chicks.
After you're divorced, right, Ek?
And just the fact that I said cruising for chicks totally screwed me.
No, it's all right. We'll work on that.
We'll work on it. I'm very happily married. So, but I got to, we got to get you set up. We got to get someone for Ty.
course, yeah.
Maybe that should be our next quest. Since we tried Mike and that didn't work out.
You and my mother will.
Where did you try? I never.
I tried, Mike. I tried, but we're gonna, it's like Homer Simpson. Let's just forget about the boy. Let's focus on the girl. She's the smart one. All right, here we go.
I'm leaving. Okay.
Let's get into hockey today in the news. All right. It is a real typewriter. All right, so let's start here because we have Ty today, and we'll call this Firing Friday.
Yeah.
Because we can talk about the Bruins, we can talk about the Flyers. Two teams, star-crossed lovers throughout history, who are now basically both looking for a new way, I guess you would say. And let's start with Chiarelli. Ty, I really thought you nailed it last week with your rant. I actually wasn't so into the idea of firing Chiarelli until I heard your rant, which was really good. But yeah, you weren't surprised, obviously. Where do you think they go from here?
I think the easiest call is probably in-house. You probably go with Don Sweeney to be the GM. I hate to say this, but he'll be more of the yes man to Cam Neely, and I know Neely says he doesn't want that, but it's very clear that Cam Neely has an idea for how he wants this club to be, and it's very obvious that Chiarelli was not reaching those standards for him, and I definitely think that you're going to see Cam want a bit more power and a bit more say in what's happening with the team and has more of an idea of what their direction is. I mean, that was something that I think they felt they lost towards the end with Chiarelli. They felt that they didn't have a clear idea of what their identity was going to be or where their franchise was going, how they were going to get out of this cap mess. It was really sort of an odd dynamic towards the end between Chiarelli and Neely, and I think it ultimately came to a head there, and Neely's going to want his guy. He wants a guy that he can go to war with and he can understand the rationale behind moves or trades they don't make or trades they do make. And I just think that Don Sweeney, he's a former teammate of Cam Neely. I think he just makes the most sense. But they will interview guys. I know they're probably going to interview Ray Shero just based on the Jacobses have always had sort of an interest in Ray Shero even before he went to Pittsburgh. That's another guy. I mean, Fenton's another option too that people have been bringing up. Some talk about Julian Brisebois down in Tampa Bay. Maybe he's ready to step up and be a GM somewhere. And
I heard Bill Zito out of Columbus. I heard Bill Zito, assistant GM in Columbus too, because he's former Rask agent, very tight with the Bruins. It's another one.
Yeah, they dealt with him quite a bit between Rask and also Tim Thomas. As well back when Thomas was with the Bruins. So
and the other another goalie they had too. They had 3 goalies at one point that were represented by him, I believe. Yeah,
so there there are a lot of connections I think everywhere, and especially when it comes to the Boston Bruins and a franchise like that that's had so many talented players and so many sort of legends and whatnot roll through. You're going to have a lot of ex-player and ex-agent connects, and there's no shortage of them here in Boston. So we'll see, but I honestly think that if I had to put my money down on it today, I would say that Don Sweeney's going to be the guy.
It's ironic, Ek, because the names that both you and Ty just mentioned, I mean, they're in the same pool. It seems like the Bruins and the Leafs are fishing in the same pool. And if you look at the two situations, Shanahan and Neely are 2 strong presidents who are looking for, a GM that fits into a construct that's already there. So
if you're a fish, that's a really easy pool to swim in.
Yeah,
just throwing that out there.
I mean, well, you have to look at this too. I think the Boston Bruins realize that if they don't make a move here and to keep Sweeney in some capacity here, he's probably going to leave. I mean, he had an interview last season with the Washington Capitals. It didn't pan out. They went a different direction. But a lot of people in the league seem to feel that Don Sweeney is ready to take that next step. And I just think that the Bruins sort of realize this, and they think he has potential, and it just makes the most sense given his tenure with the organization and all the work he's put in. And it would just make sense, I think, at this point in time.
Yeah.
I want to bring up something, and this is before we get into the Flyers, and it's an overall thing. It's a kind of discussion for the board. I was talking to somebody yesterday about this whole new wave of people like it basically started, Trevor Linden. Then you had the president, right? The team guy, the president. You had, of course, you have Shanahan, and you have Neely. What's funny about this the whole president dynamic, where you have a president of a team who basically is kind of immune from hiring a bunch of people below him. I mean, he's not immune from firing. Anybody can be fired, but presidents, historically, stick around. They're the ones who hire and fire everybody. But they're the new presidents of the team seem to be way more involved in what's going on as far as actually the player, picking and development and stuff like that. And I talked to somebody the other day who said that, at one of the owners' meetings a few years back, before any of this went on, and there's another team I can't remember that has the same situation right now. Well, you have Gar Snow to a degree, but he's not the president. But Gary Bettman sat before the owners and said, "Listen, what we need to do with the new salary cap era is we need to get rid of the whole concept of GMs. A lot of GMs being hockey people who didn't necessarily know the salary cap, weren't, not to say they weren't the brightest in the world, but that's sort of what was being thrown. They were ex-players. They're not. It's a really intense job to manage a team in a salary cap world, right? And the concept was, Gary Bettman actually started this concept, I was told, at one of the meetings. He said, what we need to do is hire team presidents who are going to preside over all this stuff so they can look at all the really intricate things. And these should be like lawyers and really smart hockey people so that they can help the GMs, who are the ex-players and people like that, in this whole process. And it's just, that's how this whole thing started. And what's kind of funny about that is, all these team presidents are ex-players. All of the ones we've seen, and it's kind of worked out the opposite the way I think that Bettman and the NHL thought it should work.
Well, Burke is the team president in Calgary.
Yeah, well, there's Burke too, and
hires for a living. Kevin Lowe in Edmonton, who hires.
Right.
So
there you have it, and these are all. And it used to be that a team president had almost nothing to do with personnel as far as on the ice goes, and nothing at all.
I think the first one might have been John Davidson in Columbus.
And there's another one, right? That's another one. Okay, so again, and they're all of these team presidents we're talking about have a lot to do with what's going on the ice. These aren't guys who aren't, and JD too is a very influential person in that organization, as you know, Josh. That he's very influential. I'm not going to say that JD is making trades, but he's definitely getting things run by him. And he's. And in JD's case, JD's like the perfect team president because he's a public figure who's very good with who understands the media. He understands everything about the situation, right? JD's been great about that. He gets the good people. He hires good folks like your dad, Josh, and JD really makes things work. But there's some of these guys are just like Cam Neely. I'm nothing against Cam Neely, but I'm wondering if we really should be calling this position team president. We should. It feels like it's director of player ops to me. Like it really, that's what it feels like. Or director of hockey operations. You know what I mean, Ty?
Yeah. It's tough. He's a very emotional guy.
Yeah.
When he played with raw emotion, and he kind of manages the same, and that's not always the best thing. That can get you into some messy situations.
Right.
And I think that's how you have to look at this sort of situation. One bad year, and we're talking about the Bruins. They're on the precipice of blowing it up with both Chiarelli and Julien being gone. Julien hasn't been fired yet, but that's still on the table. If that happens, you start to go, geez, is this what you really want? You want to be this franchise that's so topsy-turvy. And it feels like the Bruins had stability for a very long time, and Neely was sort of a supporting cast member of that.
Right.
Now he's the guy, and that no one can deny that anymore. He is the guy, especially with Chiarelli gone. Besides that, I don't think there's anyone. Except for Scott Bradley, who's been with the team for 22 years in the scouting role now and more of an assistant GM role. I don't think there's anyone who has the tenure that Neely has now and the say that Neely has. So this is going to be his team, and it's good and bad. When they made Cam Neely the president, it was an unbelievable PR move. The Bruins needed.
That's what all these guys have been, right? These are great PR moves. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And then, that was sort of all right, Neely's in charge. This is going to be great. It's going to be great. But Neely wasn't really in charge for a very long time. He was just sort of an analyst or another voice in the room. Now he's in charge. This is his show. So we'll see. But it has a chance to be a dangerous situation because he doesn't have the resume of a Davidson or, even you look at elsewhere. Some of these GMs that have been around for 20 years, Cam Neely's never been a GM. So for all of a sudden for him to have that say, it's tough.
Experience too. Yeah, Shanahan has more experience. Worked at the NHL. Shanahan, in a lot of ways, is like Brian Burke. He kind of came up through the same way Burke came up through working at the NHL too. And it's it's the same thing. Burke was a player too. And they all play out. So yeah, but Cam was never an executive, so to speak. which
No,
is
yeah.
and I don't think he ever really I don't see him ever wanting to be an executive. Like Luke Robitaille is the other one I was thinking of. Okay, so there's another one, right? So look at these guys. I mean, they all are very popular players in their town. Trevor Linden owned Vancouver, right? And yet, what are the weird thing about the dynamic in the NHL is, and the Flyers, Peter Luukko left, became team president of the Florida Panthers, and the Flyers didn't hire a team president. It was the strange. They didn't. They kind of took Luukko's responsibilities and divvied them out among other people. So in a way, Hextall is acting like a team president there, even though it's technically his job as GM. But if Hextall would be fired, it would come directly from Ed Snyder and not from a team president. So, if in my opinion, if you answer to the owner, you're the team president. Like that. The way this always went was owner, team president, GM, coach, captain. that was to me that was the natural progression, right? The owner picked the team president picked the GM picked the coach, and the coach picked the captain, right? That's how this whole thing plays out. So, whenever GMs go, coaches usually go. And whenever team presidents go, that's usually a complete clean out of everybody. So here we are, and Claude Julien, who is obviously a great coach, and it's not like there's a question about this. You can question Chiarelli to a degree, perhaps, but you can't really question Julien. I mean, and in my opinion, you really can't even question Chiarelli. I mean, he's done. I mean, if he wins, he's a couple minutes away from possibly winning that second Stanley Cup. If he wins that second Stanley Cup, are we still here today?
Well,
in
2011, if they had lost Game 7 in overtime to Montreal, the speculation was that Julien was going to be fired then and there.
Well, he probably would have been, and and that's the crazy thing about it, right? I mean, and Laviolette was going to get fired if the Flyers didn't win the shootout against the Rangers. And Holmgren was going to go too, and yet they went on and went to the Stanley Cup Finals that year. So the firings and hirings of these guys is so.
Yeah, I mean the thing is with coaches especially, it's like there is a shelf life. There is a shelf life based on the type of coach that they are. Ken Hitchcock, he maybe has reached his shelf life in St. Louis. He's good for 4 or 5 years in one place, and after that, it gets to the point where people tune him out, and then he goes someplace else and has some success for 4 or 5 years, and then moves on again.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be what's going on with Julien. I mean, he's a great coach. He's got a Stanley Cup to his credit.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think of Julien as like a shelf life coach. Do you, Ty?
There have been times where I've questioned the messages here. Where I've questioned if the players sort of.
Yeah.
It's like they're so comfortable with where they are that they've heard every speech. I mean, for a lot of these guys, Julien is the only NHL coach they've ever known.
Yeah, right.
For guys like Lucic and Marchand and Hamilton, Torrey Krug. I mean, this is the only NHL coach these guys have ever known.
Yeah.
And I think that at a certain point, it's not that you stop trying, but you've heard every rah-rah speech in the world. You've been told everything. You've been in every situation. Yeah. A lot of these guys, they've been in Game 7s, they've been in Stanley Cups. It gets tough after a while. I think it's tough for these players to get motivated in Game 67, of the regular season down in Florida in a half-full, half-empty building. Whereas they just feel that when they get in the playoffs, that's when they receive the message. But that's a problem in and of itself. You know what I mean? So I think that it's something that the Bruins players do struggle with. There is comfort there with Julien. They know that he's gonna go to bat for them. Like, he will call them out sometimes, but 9 out of 10 times he's gonna be there sticking up for them in any situation. So I don't know. I mean, there were times of this year where I thought the message grew stale in the players. But at the same time, I just thought that he wasn't operating with a full deck this year. That's what it came back down to for me.
That's right. That's what it comes. I mean, I think of shelf life coaches in different ways. I mean, I guess eventually every coach, like you're saying, will run out of tricks, sort of, or just wear thin in some way, shape, or form. Shelf coaches, I think of as guys that burn out in 3 to 5 years. Laviolette, Hitchcock, Keenan before that. Just these guys. Tortorella, who might be like 3 to 5 months. But yeah, the whole thing is like these guys wear out really fast, and where Julien, and the difference between Julien and those kind of coaches, and you can see it in press conferences. The one thing I always liked about Julien's press conferences, at least the ones I did, which were always, of course, the big ones in the Stanley Cup Finals and stuff like that, was he seemed to have perspective on things. He seemed to, the game was was, even though something happened in the game, he was never devastated by a loss, and he was never, completely exhilarated by a victory. Even I remember when he won the Stanley Cup, I was looking for him to be happier than he was in his press conference. It was just like he's just very even keeled. Where the guys like Hitchcock and those guys tend to go the other way. They go like the devastated by a loss type way. Where Julian would be like, you know what, we're playing. It's beautiful outside. It's the Stanley Cup Finals. That's a Claude Julien thing to say. You agree with that, or?
Yeah, the story is never about him. People countless times we've tried to pry out a story about him, or
yeah.
Try to make it about him just a little
Right.
bit. He doesn't want it. He's like, I'm the coach. I'm not the player. Don't make the story about me. So
he's very good at that. That's a great point. So so let's go to Philly real quick because we have to do that as well. And then we'll get into games from last night. And then we'll get into the lottery combos that we've seen so far as things have gone along here. Okay, so the Flyers today announced that they're in. Ron Hextall indeed has spent, his what could be up to 2 months. What he said the other day was more like 2 days, and he's decided that Berube is no longer going to be the coach, which was not an unexpected thing. And like I said, the thing that still caught me the most surprising at the press conference the other day was when he was asked about what was going to happen with Berube. He used the line, well, we're always looking to make our team better, and if there's a way to make our team better, we'll do so, which is never used when you're talking about coaches. That's a typical line that we hear all the time from every GM, but that's never used when you're asked about a coach. So basically the idea, so you're waiting for a better coach to show up. That's, this is not like a left wing or a right wing or a center you're talking about here, or a better goalie. We're talking about, I've never heard that line before used in terms of coaches, so it was pretty obvious that Berube wasn't going to be around. I believe he wants to stay in the area. His family, his wife is, is a successful business up in Bucks County, which is, just north of where I am here, which is actually very close to where the Phantoms play. So I wouldn't be shocked at all to see Berube move to the Phantoms head coach. I don't know if they're going to give him that opportunity or not. I haven't gotten much more information yet than what's out there, which is just pretty basic and simple that they've relieved him of his duties. But I don't think Berube's going anywhere else. I think he's going to stay in the organization. He's definitely one of those kind of guys who feels like a Flyer for life type guys. But this is a move that absolutely had to be made. There's no question about it. It was.
Well, then if it absolutely had to be made, then why wasn't it made when he held the press conference? That's the only question I have. I mean,
my answer is this, and I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's a fair question to ask, it is a question that reporters will always ask. But it's one of those things that I am guessing that there was a reason behind the scenes that we don't know about. Like something Berube was waiting. Like I think Berube already knew at the press conference, but I think that what they wanted to do is they wanted to, they either had to discuss something, how it was going to play out. There was some reason that Hextall was respecting Berube at that press conference to not talk about it. Josh?
Yeah, well, there was a conference call moments ago with Ron Hextall, and here's a couple of snippets for you guys. Question was, when did you make the decision and when did you inform Craig? He said, I made the decision last night. I met with Craig this morning and informed him of the decision. The question, what changed in the last couple of days? He said, well, nothing changed. It's just a process that I went through. I wanted to make the right decision. Once I kind of put all the facts together, and in the end, you go with your gut, and I came up with the decision last night. He said, someone asked what went into the decision. He said, in a nutshell, in the end, I didn't feel like he got enough out of our group collectively. Now, according about the assistants, he said he wants to wait until he brings a new coach on to make a decision on that, so he can let those guys know well in advance. Those guys, obviously, Ian LaPerriere, Gord Murphy, and there's a third guy as well, which I
shoot. Yeah, I draw a blank. I'll think of it.
What are you looking for in a new coach? I haven't thought it through. Obviously, you've got ideas, but in the end, we'll do our homework in the next couple of weeks and see who the candidates are and start the interview process and go from there. In the end, you're looking for the coach that fits your team, obviously that thinks the same way to some degree. In the end, we're looking for the guy who could take this group to another level, not only short-term, but long-term.
All right, understand this. Hextall hates the media. Okay, and we took a while for us to all figure this out, but basically he shut down the Flyers last year. Lou Lamoriello style. Like he closed this whole thing down, and a lot of what he is saying now is coded. Like if you're a Flyers media person, you get why what he's saying now is I am not reactionary. And this is the whole thing of I'm carefully thinking everything through, because in the past Holmgren, Clark, they were always considered reactionary, firing a coach after 3 games type stuff, right? So he's saying I am not reactionary. I will not make my mind up until I am ready to do so. You can't force me to. I made the decision last night. He obviously knew where he was going before last night. I mean, anybody who works for a team all the time, it doesn't take him suddenly to realize, you know what? After looking the season over very carefully, I realized that this coach wasn't getting a lot out of his players. I mean, that didn't come to him last evening. It came to my sister, last month. It's obvious that this stuff is going on, right? So, but what he's doing now is very apparent. It's very calculated, and in Philadelphia, talking to the Philadelphia media stuff, it's very coded. And I mean, the 2 things about that. Well, there's several things that went wrong with Berube, but let me start here. Berube was an assistant coach first, and that hardly ever works in the NHL. If you're an assistant coach and then go to head coach the same team you were an assistant coach of. If you're an assistant coach in one place and go to be a head coach someplace else, that's one thing. But the way the dynamic has always worked in the NHL is that the head coach is the hard ass and the assistant coach is the player's friends. And
wasn't that
all you have to do, watch Miracle, the movie Miracle. You'll get the idea. That's the Miracle. They played this out dynamic, right? So
Dave Lewis in Detroit?
Yeah, right. So, Peters now goes to Carolina, but in Detroit, same kind of situation, right? McClellan, same thing. So these guys can be great head coaches, but not with the same players that they befriended, because that whole dynamic is totally different. And I really felt as if the guys that were in, because remember, the guys Berube's going to, as an assistant coach, he's going to befriend the guys that were in Laviolette's doghouse, because those are the guys who are going to be the ones who really have to, who need the most support, who need to think that somebody's on their side. Some of the guys that were in his doghouse that he befriended aren't exactly great leaders on this Flyers team, and that's part of the reason they were in Laviolette's doghouse. I won't go into specifics, but I really believe that those relationships kind of cursed Berube from the beginning on this in some ways. And last year, they came on strong, a lot of it because they were relieved in a similar way, which we saw Vancouver this year, relieved to be out from under Laviolette because he was a real tyrant, and every move they made was being judged, and they felt like they couldn't make any mistakes on the ice or anything like that. So there was a lot of relief, and then but really they were basically playing, without a coach to a degree. They were playing on their own, and they were leading by themselves, and Timonen and was there still, Hartnell was there still, but Berube last year was down talking Hartnell. He's been down talking Hartnell since he was an assistant, so it was obvious when Hartnell was traded that wasn't a shock, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is Berube likes to talk to the media a lot, and he talks off the record a lot, but remember what I said, Hextall locked this down Lamoriello style, so there's a definite rub there, and I really feel behind the scenes that Hextall wants a coach who's not gonna say a thing to the media, and he's probably gonna get one in McClellan. That's my opinion. But if they go, or Julian, or these guys who talk to the media but don't really say anything. Berube actually did say stuff to the media off the record always, but he would actually give real opinions about what he felt, which is not common in the NHL, and it's fun to cover, but it's not fun for Hextall, who this media was getting back to Hexy because the media would be talking to him, so I felt like that was a kind of a doomsday situation as well. I think that I think McClellan and Babcock are the 2 top guys they want to go after, and I think if Julian becomes available, there's 3. I think that's another one that they'll go after hard too.
Don't you think that one of the biggest problems with Berube as a head coach was sort of how it seemed like he alienated quite a lot of his players, and it seemed like Steve Mason was one, and he was great for them this year, but it seemed like Berube would call out Mason sometimes, and it was like, why are you doing that? And you could tell that there's clearly a rift between LeCavalier and Berube, And that's, I mean, Cubby, I mean, for his struggles, of course, I mean, this is a veteran guy. This is a leader. And for those guys to clash like that, it just seems really, that can rub a lot of people the wrong way, it seems.
Yeah, interesting. I agree with you. I think that's astute because I felt, well, Vinny is sort of his own case. He signed here because of Peter Laviolette. Laviolette's the one who convinced him to sign here, and after 3 games, Laviolette was gone. So Vinny's time in Philly has never really been what he thought it would be, which is why Vinny almost was traded to Nashville this summer. But with Mason wants to be a leader. He really wants to be. He wants to be a leader. He wants to be part of the core. It's rare that, and Berube doesn't really believe that goalies should do that. He doesn't think the goalies should be part of the leadership core, and then some coaches are okay with it, some coaches aren't. He's one of those guys who's like, you just shut up and stop the puck, and that's your job. We won't put any extra pressure on you. That's what you do. And I think that that was the rub with Mason. I felt like Mason was trying to talk up more in the locker room, and sometimes that would come off as if Mason was really kind of criticizing his team in front of him. But I really got the impression more that it was just Mason trying to be a leader. And that the players weren't really offended as much as much as Berube was by the stuff that Mason was saying from talking to the players, So I think that his relationship with certain guys was really bad. Andy McDonald. There's certain players. Not the relationship wasn't bad, but there are also certain kinds of players that Berube just didn't seem to want to make better, and instead wanted to try to mold into another kind of player, which is and that also played into it as well. There's 2 kinds of coaches, right? There's coaches like Hitch will make everyone play defense, and that's so he comes in and that's what he does, right? And some coaches will. Laviolette's really good at just at finding what you're good at, and he's going to focus on that, and he's going to build his system around what you're good at. Some Trotz makes everybody do a certain thing. There's all different kinds of things, and Berube is the kind of coach who wants everybody to play one way, and that wasn't really well defined. The one thing that I do want to say about Craig Berube that people did, and then we'll move on, that people did misconceive about him, is because he was like a goon when he played, or because he was this kind of like rough guy. Berube is really sharp. He's a really smart guy. There's no lack of intelligence or hockey knowledge with Craig Berube. He knows the game inside out, and it wasn't surprising when he started becoming a coach. Even before he was retiring, you kind of had a feeling he would do this. In a similar way to Tocchet, who was another guy who was an assistant, maybe better than a head coach. But, these guys are definitely smart, and I think that's the Flyers fans are going to be in for an interesting summer now because, this all plays out, and if I wonder. The question I'm going to ask is, this Connor McDavid sweepstakes that's going to happen here, and this transition to the next thing. I mean, say, Buffalo gets Connor McDavid, or say Philadelphia gets Connor McDavid. Does that suddenly change where a guy like Babcock wants to go? Like, does this sweepstakes actually play into where Babcock or McClellan might want to go? Because I think it does.
Yeah,
I think it does, or same with Toronto. If Toronto gets him, does that change things a little bit?
Well, okay.
Mike, your thoughts?
If it's Buffalo or if it's Philadelphia, I think it increases their chances of getting Babcock because Buffalo is further along in the rebuild than a lot of people think. I mean, they have Reinhart, they have the young defenseman, they have some young players who will probably be in the NHL within a couple of years. They have they have Evander Kane who hasn't played a game for them. If they add McDavid, I think that within a couple of years they're a playoff team, and a coach like Babcock can sort of mold that team and bring along a young guy like McDavid. Plus Terry Pegula will open up the bank for him and pay him like we paid Rex Ryan in football with the Bills. Same thing with Ed Snyder. I mean, I think there's a lot of talent on the Flyers. I think they need to get a couple defensemen, but they have a goaltender in Mason. They have a lot of good young forwards. I think there's a lot to work with there. You add McDavid, and you have a 1-2 punch of McDavid and Giroux, or Giroux and McDavid, whichever one you want to put first. I mean, that's a lot to work with. In Toronto, they're just starting the rebuild. I get the feeling that even if they win McDavid, they are still going to trade Phaneuf, Kessel, Bozak, Lupul. They're still going to tear it down.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Babcock You know, I mean, there's still a lot of rumor there that I think it was Bodog who did the odds of who the next coach of the Leafs would be, and it had 2-1 Babcock. Unless the MLS&E is prepared to offer him $5-6 million a year and a lengthy deal, and some say in player personnel, I don't think Babcock is going to Toronto because that is a 3 or 4 year turnaround with that team. So, but
that's a sucker bet there. That 2-1 odds are to get people to place money on that. That's a sucker bet.
But Buffalo or Philadelphia or even Pittsburgh, if Pittsburgh takes a quick out in the playoffs and Johnston gets fired, I think those are more likely than Babcock going to Toronto.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's talk briefly about the games tomorrow before we get to the news with Josh here. And the lottery stuff. Okay, so and sorry, we ran out of time. I apologize. We'll go a little bit long, and if anybody's got to run, just let me know. But we'll go a little bit long here. Okay, so the 4 games yesterday. I don't know if it was just me, but they didn't hold the same intrigue to me as the games the night before. They were okay, but there were some really good games. But let's start with Pittsburgh and the Rangers. That was pretty much exactly as I thought that game would go, and I'm the one who said that this could go seven games, and that I oddly enough felt like there was a scenario where Fleury steals the series and really just surprises everybody. Ty, what were your thoughts on that one?
Well, you laugh because 29 seconds in, Rangers score, and you're like, oh, there's Fleury. You think it's the end of the world again, but I thought he let up 2 not great goals. But other than that, he played well. I thought he kept the Penguins in it. But it's tough because when you're playing against Henrik Lundqvist, your margin for error is so small. It's just and it's really tough for a goalie to duel Henrik Lundqvist. And we've seen this, so many times now. And I just think that this is going to be Pittsburgh's undoing. Just the fact that they do have it's a downgrade in their crease versus New York's, and that's such a huge problem. Last night, you hear Pierre McGuire going off about it, but he was absolutely right. Where the Penguins are losing 2-0, and they take a dumb, stupid slashing penalty. It was a selfish penalty. He's absolutely right about that, and that's what's going to kill you. And this has been a problem for Pittsburgh all year. They're not very disciplined.
Yeah.
And I just think that if you're logging shorthanded time on ice, you're going to have a problem because Fleury's going to see more shots. He's more susceptible to a power play goal against. And then you're even more of a hole than you were 5 minutes before that. So I think this is going to be a good series, but I think it's going to be a quick series because I just don't think the Penguins have the firepower, especially on their back end. I mean, you watched this team last night. They would have loved to have a Letang or an Olimata back there last night. Absolutely no doubt. I mean, these guys would change the dynamic of that series, and without them, it's very tough to see the Penguins get anything going.
It is. And they were talking about, Downey shouldn't play the next game and all that after taking the penalties and stuff like that. But the problem is Downey's one of their more skilled players. They really are. I mean, they really, as far as their depth players goes, Downey's one of their better scorers. So they have no choice but to play Downey. I like Downey too. Mike?
Well, the Rangers had 4 power plays in the first period. When you have that, you limit the ability of Crosby to have any kind of impact on the game because I think he played like less than 4 minutes in the first period.
Yeah, he played 3 something. Yep.
Yeah, you need Sidney Crosby out there. You need Malkin out there if you have a chance to win. Now, I mean, all I know is that I thought Fleury was the best Penguin on the ice, and I agree that maybe he should have stopped one of those 2 goals or maybe even both of them. But he's the only reason that game stayed 2-1. I thought he was fantastic in the second and third period. But the problem is there just didn't seem to be any kind of response with the Penguins. I mean, they just, not that they were dead, but I mean, it didn't seem, even though it was a 2-1 game in the third period, that the Rangers were in any danger of losing that lead. Even with the goaltender pulled. So I mean, I picked the Rangers to win this series quickly, and last night didn't dissuade me from that prediction.
All right, let's move to Minnesota. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
No, I was just going to point out that I think it's going to be a sweep, and you'll be going with the theme. You'll see sweeping changes in Pittsburgh.
You could, I mean, and a lot of this does feel like they're playing against like the Wilkes-Barre Scranton and Crosby and Malkin. They really are a lot of minor leaguers in playing this game, and that could help the Penguins down the line.
Let me ask you this. Crosby last night, and Elliot Friedman pointed this out, played under 4 minutes in the first period last night for the Penguins. Yeah, there were a lot of penalties, but he's your best player. Shouldn't he be on the ice during the penalty killing?
I don't think you can. I don't think you can put him out there shorthanded because you got to rest him because you got to. There's still plenty of game left.
But 3.5 minutes, Zach.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would get him a chance. I would get him a shot, but they really, I mean, the Rangers are so good, and Crosby's not bad defensively. I mean, you can make points on this for sure.
The last thing you want is Sidney Crosby blocking shots on the power play.
Yeah, that's a big one too. Like, you got some
3.5 minutes. I mean, you got to play more than 3.5 minutes.
Well, then stop taking stupid penalties. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I mean,
well, the thing is this too. Like the way the Penguins are going to beat, the way anyone beats Lundqvist is with stupid goals. The problem with Lundqvist is very good if you're playing just straight up hockey and you're going to move around. Like the kind of goals Crosby and Malkin like to score are the kind of shots that Lundqvist likes to stop. But Lundqvist does not. When Lundqvist is at his worst is when you are just literally whacking at the puck. That's where Lundqvist struggles most because he stays back in his net. He's really far back.
Dirty goals.
Yeah, dirty goals. The Penguins don't. That's not their MO to score dirty goals. So they've got to figure out how to do it. And do it quickly.
I'm just not a fan of Johnston as the coach. I don't think he's done that great of a job.
I don't know. I mean, I found out the other day. I didn't realize he was from basically the same town as Crosby. I didn't realize that they grew up in the same area. Anyway, so moving on to let's go to Tampa and Detroit. This was very similar to Detroit-Boston game 1 last year in my mind. It felt like the same game, Ty. Did you get that?
Yeah, I mean, you give these guys, the skill guys, room to operate, and they will operate. It's simple as that, really.
45 shots, like 45 to 14.
Yeah.
40. I got 46, I think. I want to say.
46 to 14. Yeah, I mean, and yet, Mrazek, as we talked about, that's Babcock. The only shot they have in this is to get a goalie who can just steal them something.
Yeah, but and Pavel Datsyuk, I mean, he's getting up there in age, but he's still got the ability to be a difference maker. I mean, everything went right for Detroit yesterday. I mean, I thought Tampa Bay basically took a slumber in the first half of that game and then finally started to wake up around the beginning, later in the second, beginning of the third period. Yeah. I still think they're going to win this series in 5 or maybe 6 games, but you can't take it away from Detroit. I mean, they got goals when they needed to, and Mrazek was the difference. Now, I think they're going to stick with him for the rest of the series, no matter what he does, because I think Jimmy Howard is an average goaltender, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question I have though is should Lightning be sticking with Ben Bishop? Like that's.
Oh yeah.
Well, can I, let me say one thing really quick. Did you guys even see the shots last night in the game?
Yeah.
What the shots on goal were? Tampa Bay had 46. Detroit had 14.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, and I think that's.
Sorry, I was off in another land.
That's okay. No, and I think that no, you're right. The shots were crazy, and I think that, but to me, I'm just not sold on Ben Bishop. I mean, and I think that could be a big, fatal flaw for this Lightning team. And I don't know. I mean, they have this other, the other goalie they have, who I really think is their goalie of the future. Everybody seems to think so, right?
Yeah, so, I think Vasilevsky's got a lot of, potential. But I think you have to go unless you go down 3-0 or something like that. You have.
I don't know. 2-0 is. I mean, you should be beating Detroit. If you go down if you have another game like that one, you got to go to Vasilevsky, don't you think? I mean, I don't know.
Going back to Detroit, that's what I'm saying. It's like if say Detroit beats Tampa in Game 2 in Tampa, then you're going into the Joe Louis Arena down 2-0, and you're going in with a rookie goaltender. I still think they start Bishop in Game 3.
You're going against a rookie goaltender.
Well, granted, but I just think and Vasilevsky had a good year. I just think the Bishop
rookie goaltender versus rookie goaltender to me. I'll take I'll take that as a wash. If you're Tampa, you take the goalies as a wash.
I mean, what was missing yesterday was the fact that Steven Stamkos was absent. I mean, I didn't see him really make any. After he took a shot off of his knee, I think it was Alex Killorn. Yeah. It was a pass or a shot, and he really wasn't a factor for most of that game. And I mean, Tampa has got a lot of depth, and they have a lot of talent, but they need Stamkos to be Stamkos, and if he's not, I think Detroit's going to have an advantage.
They can, with how I feel about this whole series is that Tampa Bay can put whoever they want in net, but they need to do better than 0 for 7 on the power play. That's what it comes back to. You need timely scoring in the postseason.
Yeah.
If your power play can't click, odds are you're going to be out early. I mean, the Boston Bruins had a historically bad power play in 2011, but they were able to skate by with stellar goaltending. You need one or the other, and if you're going to have average goaltending, you better score. You better capitalize on your power play.
Right, you're right.
You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
No, you're dead on. I've always said those are the two things that I look at. That's sort of my secret to picking series is goaltending and special teams, because that's really you have to, because if you don't score on your power play, it's not just that you don't score on your power play. It's that the other team now can play a different game because they're not worried about taking penalties, and that affects the entire game. So to me,
and Jason Garrison will probably be back for Game 2 for Tampa, which he's the guy on the power play for them, so that might make a difference.
It'll help. So then we go to Minnesota and St. Louis. Like I said, I wanted to wait for Game 1 to pick this series if I could have, because I really wanted to see if Dubnyk was going to be able to keep it going in the playoffs. And so far, yes, right?
Yep. And the inability of the St. Louis goaltending. I mean, I thought Jake Allen cost him that game yesterday. I mean, especially the Zucker goal in the first period. He was caught asleep, and Zucker did the wraparound. That is the Achilles heel of the St. Louis Blues. I mean, in the third period, they started to come alive.
Yep.
But Minnesota was up 2-0, and I thought both goals were Jake Allen's fault.
Yeah, I thought so too. And Hitchcock's already come back and said that they're going back to Jake Allen in Game 2. This has always been a thing with me with Hitchcock. He loves big goalies, and Jake Allen's the perfect goalie for the kind of goalie Hitch does not believe in smaller goalies. Elliott's not that much smaller, but he's smaller, and if Hitch has a fatal flaw, in my opinion, it's always been his ability to pick which goalie to play in certain situations. If he has a straight up goalie, like he did when he had Belfour, and there was obvious to play Belfour in Dallas, but this is a tough spot for him because he's going to go with a bigger goalie, especially against a team like Minnesota. He's going to think the bigger goalie is the way to go. And I'm not so sure that. I mean, I think Elliott's getting screwed here personally. I think he's played well enough. He was an All-Star this year. Granted, a late All-Star, but still an All-Star. And I think Elliott should be playing in this game. Ty?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that's who I would have gone with for this game to start, at least to start out. I just think that his resume this year earned him at least that. But I think one of the big things for me that took me by surprise is that I just didn't think that the St. Louis Blues looked into this game. They had moments, but it was a very listless sort of game for the Blues, in my opinion. So that kind of shocks me too. I mean, especially the pressure that's on this team, I think, to finally win and to finally do something with this roster. I mean, it's got to be there by now. I mean, so for them to kind of have this no-show, this emotional no-show, it was very concerning to me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you. They really didn't show up, and I don't know if it was not showing up or if it was just being really nervous. Like, I got a sense that there was, this is a team that knows what's at stake here. They know where they've been, and they know they're playing a team that they really don't want to play. So they're in a bad spot.
Minnesota didn't look nervous at all, Ak. I mean,
they don't have anything in Minnesota, and it's funny because this is the first time in what, 8 playoff series that the Minnesota Wild have won Game 1. They've never been able. This is their first Game 1 playoff series victory ever, I think, or something like that. And it's crazy.
A statistical oddity yesterday. Jason Pominville scored the 4th goal for Minnesota. It was an empty net power play goal.
There you go.
That's strange. That's
not the Eklund goal, though. We all know what the Eklund goal is, right? The Eklund goal is, I named this myself, and I've tried to get it to catch on, so I need everybody out there to help. The Eklund goal is the goal that you score on the other team after they put their goalie back in when you've scored an empty net goal. So it's at the end of the game, like you score an empty net goal, then the team puts their goalie back in, we're not going to be able to catch up, and then you score again, that's the Eklund goal. And it's happened a couple times this year. Flyers did it against the Penguins, actually, in that last game they played. So there you go. Anyway, all right, let's move on to the final game of the night. I know that's really fascinating. I don't know where to go from there. Winnipeg and Anaheim. This was exactly as I thought it would be, too. This game didn't surprise me either. I think Winnipeg's going to win this series still, and I still kind of hold on to that. Anaheim got their stars to play like stars, and that's what they needed. And that's the key to this game, right? That's Pavlik played very well though. Goaltending was pretty good for both sides. The Jets, the Jets had this game at one point. They looked pretty confident at one point. They were up 2-1 in third, and they looked pretty confident. The Ducks have so much experience though that came through at the end, and that it's going to be a hard series for Winnipeg to win. But I still think that the Jets aren't out of this series until they've lost their fourth game. They're the kind of team that's going to be tough to put away.
It's clear that the tactic that the Ducks are going to use on the Jets, and you could see it last night. They're going to crash the net, and they're going to try to get into Pavlik's grill, and if they can do that, and they did that in a number of instances. I mean, if Corey Perry shows up like he did last night, it could be a quick series. I picked Winnipeg as well, but he was phenomenal, and the matchup between Getzlaf and Kessler, the two centers against Scheifele and Little, that was clearly won by Anaheim yesterday. But the Jets looked like they had things in control up until the third period, and then Anaheim, I think, swarmed them. So
the best player in that game though was Jacob Trouba. I mean, he was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
He is phenomenal. He's going to win an Norris Trophy in this league in my mind, and he looked every bit that last night.
Well, let's just say this. If Jacob Trouba is the best Jet, the Jets are going to lose. I'm not saying that because Jacob Trouba is not a good player.
No, I agree with you.
They need Buckland and they need Myers to step up, and they need their forwards to really step up. And if they don't, they're not going to win.
They're going to need to score opportunistic goals. Ty, do you watch this one?
I saw this one. Obviously, I never go to bed. You know this.
Yes.
So I caught this one. I mean, the thing that stuck out for me is that I just think it's going to be so hard for teams to slow down that line of Maroon, Getzlaf, and Perry. That is such a big line. I mean, you need to have big defensemen to do that. And the Jets have one, but I just honestly I look at it and I just think that that line is going to be one hard line because they're just so strong around the net too. Getzlaf has a great shot, but both Maroon and Perry are great front of the net, top of the crease kind of guys. Like they can bat home rebounds all day long, and right. I think you saw that. You saw two of those last night. They had two great goals where it was just they were capitalizing on their chances right in front of the net. And if that happens, and I think it will because I don't think that the Jets have the strength to plow these guys out of the way consistently for an entire game. I think that's going to work to Anaheim's advantage, no matter if it's Frederik Andersen or John Gibson in net. And so. I look at that, and I think that's the biggest thing is that the Ducks are just so big, and it's gonna be tough to find a team I think in the West that can really take care of that line, and especially when you have a Kessler line right behind it.
Right, and the home ice advantage is huge for the Ducks because you can't match. If you can match them, you're a little bit better. But the Ducks do have home ice through, so someone's gonna have to win a game in Anaheim. and that's the problem. I mean. And I think the Ducks. I honestly do think the Ducks though are going to have to win all their games in Anaheim to win this series because I don't think that they're going to win in Winnipeg. I think that's going to be such a crazy scene, and such a good coach as far as matching goes that you'll be able to get Bufflin out against them. You'll be able to make that happen a lot better. It'll be a different story. But yeah,
I can't wait for that.
Me too. I wish I could go. I mean we did see something weird last night. We saw the parallel universe penalty, which we haven't seen before, which is I can remember, which is the
the penalty after Perry had scored the goal.
Yeah, so it's I call it the parallel universe penalty because you have that point where the goal is scored, either the play stops or the play continues. So the play continues into the parallel universe, but then the goal counts and the parallel universe penalty counts, even though that time period doesn't count. So.
It's like Back to the Future too.
It is. It's just slightly better. Not as good as Back to the Future 1, but just right in there somewhere. Yeah, I know. It was like where we're going, we don't need offsides. That was completely. It was strange because that penalty doesn't exist, and this is the thing though that we had right that if the NHL determines this is a goal, they can stop the play. Remember this rule. That it wasn't. I don't think it was brought up. Remember the whole thing. Remember we talked about this at length. They decided in the middle of the year that if a goal is if a goal happens and it's determined that it actually was a goal, they can stop the play. They can call down the ice and stop the play. And something I've been pushing for a long time, and it was approved earlier this year. They didn't do it though. They kept the play going. But
On the
It was
playoffs,
barely.
it's probably a bit
Yeah,
different.
it's playoffs. Just let it
No,
go.
it's the playoffs. Exactly why you should do it because
Yeah.
I mean, if this is like this brings back my biggest fear, which was last year during the final game in LA. You know, when the Rangers are hit the post and there was a couple that almost go in. My biggest fear is the Rangers score a goal that no one sees. The Kings come back and score the goal to win the Stanley Cup. The confetti falls down and everybody's like, "Hold on, and wait a second, that goal counted back there." Because we almost had that in LA last year, and the crazy thing was, and why it was so crazy was the Rangers had this thing that looked like it went in from where we were, and then there was they played like 5 minutes of hockey after that, where it was plenty of time for them to look on the replay and see whether that was a goal or not, and that was what I was like, oh man, they better be checking this, but they can't stop it, so they did make a rule to fix that anyway. That's that. But let's go to you, Josh, with some news. What do you got today?
Some updates, guys. Dan Girardi says he is good to go and won't wear any facial protection in Game 2. A little sore, but he stressed that he is fine. In Ottawa, Mark Stone is a game-time decision. That's per Ottawa Senators coach Dave Cameron.
All right, I got $100 that Mark Stone plays. Anyone want to go with me? Anyone want to go against that?
I'm not going against that.
Mark Stone's playing. That's my opinion. Go ahead. No, I'm serious. I think that's. I mean, if he doesn't play, it's just because the Ottawa Senators don't want their Montreal Canadiens fans to be right. He's gonna play. He's gonna play.
Yeah, he might be still hurt, but he's gonna play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Continue drinking, Josh. We'll be right. Sorry.
According to Pierre LeBrun of ESPN, word is Coley Campbell had chats with both Dave Cameron and Brian Murray, as well as with Mark Bergevin yesterday, and I think you guys know why.
That would be scary. I wouldn't want to talk to Coley Campbell like that. Coley Campbell's a scary dude. The only person scarier is Lou Lamoriello.
Yeah,
One time I was at a dinner table after a Stanley Cup game with Coley Campbell and Lou Lamoriello at like one of these circular tables. And I was thinking to myself, man, oh man, I just could not. There was conversation going on, and I just was too afraid to say anything, thinking that I would say something totally stupid. And Coley Campbell and Lou Lamoriello would just kill me or have me killed
with lasers coming out of their eyes. Will anything escalate tonight?
Yeah. Well, the refs are going to definitely be on top of it, right? You're going to see somebody's going to like sneeze on somebody else, and it'll be a 5-minute game, and you're gone. They're going to try to do what they can because there's everyone's going to be watching and waiting for that. But I'm going to bring out something that's kind of weird. And sorry, Josh, and right back to you. But this is just an extended version of the show today. This is the weird thing to me. I actually think this whole thing has played in the Senators' favor. And the reason I say that is because no one is mentioning the fact of how they lost that game, which was not impressive. I mean, they lost to the Canadiens without Pacioretty and without Subban. Yeah. And they lost,
They lost because Hammond was a sieve in the second period.
But not just that, though. They scored a couple goals that were just really fluky goals that you're not going to get on Montreal every day. And that game should have been 6 or 7-2. A couple posts were hit as well on Hammond. And yet, that was their shot without Pacioretty and without Subban. And they had a lead. And they still... So if they don't... If none of this happens, if Stone's not hurt and Subban's not hurt, we're all sitting here saying, "Oh man, well the Sens had a good run." But instead, I think this all the distraction of all this stuff actually could play into their favor. It's not. I don't know.
When we talk about it though, I think that you have to look at what happened in Game 1. That Montreal fourth line with Brian Flynn and Brandon Prost and Torrey Mitchell, they wreaked havoc all game.
Yeah.
So if the Sens want to get even per se, and they put Chris Neil in the lineup, they're going to lose because Chris Neil is not a good NHL player.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And that's going to kill that line. They'll if they do a fourth line versus fourth line matchup, they're going to get killed again. So.
Ty, the only way they win is if Chris Neil is doing a kamikaze mission and he goes after Carey Price.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, pulls a Kreider.
Yeah, but you see, anyone hits Carey Price tonight, they're going to be suspended for like 25 games.
What does it matter? Chris Neil is, they're better off without.
Yeah,
Chris
I know, but
just send him in and take out Carey Price's knees.
I hope it doesn't get to that.
I don't think it will. I'm being facetious.
No, but I hope it doesn't get to someone going after Price or Hammond, because I mean there's goalies, you should be immune to this. If you go after somebody else, then I could see it, but don't go after the goalies. They're just sitting ducks. Anyway, Josh.
Dave Cameron's quote today, and a pretty good quote. He says, "After what happened, it's going to be like breaking into a police station and trying to steal something. Ain't getting away with it."
Yeah, that's pretty much dead on.
Injury news on the Montreal front, guys. The Habs having something to deal with themselves, as it looks like P.A. Parento has been ruled out with an upper body injury for game number 2 tonight against Ottawa. And the Habs might be without their second score as well. Max Pacioretty, who missed game 1 with a lingering ailment from the regular season, is questionable for tonight's tilt.
Yeah, I wouldn't play Pacioretty tonight if I was them, just because of all the crap that's going on, and they prove they don't need him. So you just don't want Pacioretty in that spot.
Yeah, the more they win, the less likely is you'll see him before he's 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys in Tampa, John Cooper, coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning, said Jason Garrison's getting better, but not likely will be ready for tomorrow's tilt against the Detroit Red Wings.
So much for my news.
Yeah. I mean, Mike thought he was going to be in, but we'll see.
All right, in Vancouver, Coach Willie Desjardins says that BX is a game-time decision, but should be good to go.
And there was some stuff this morning about Braden Holtby with the Caps. I mean, they were making.
Yeah, what's going on there, Josh?
Yes, I saw that as well, and that had to do. And I saw that our good buddy Eric Mellon wrote a nice little blog about it on Hockey Buzz with Holtby. But he missed the morning skate. He still is expected to start game 2. But apparently, what sounds like Holtby has some kind of a virus, or he's sick. I don't think guys really get the flu this time of the year, but he's got some kind of a bug.
I don't know. I got one.
My history, you don't choose what time of year you get the flu, Josh, but that's just me.
Exactly.
I think
in the winter. That's what I am.
Yeah, guys don't usually miss games for the flu this time of year. That's
it happened to Jimmy Howard. Jimmy Howard last year against the Bruins in the first round. Yeah. He had a sickness or a fever or flu, whatever it was, and they had to go to Jonas Gustafsson for a little while there. Who he played pretty well, but it can happen. But if Holtby's out, you go Grubauer. You do not go Justin Peters. Justin Peters has been an absolute dumpster fire this year. You do not give any minutes to him whatsoever.
Yeah, no, you can't. I know, I agree completely. But that changes a lot of people's predictions, though, because Holtby was one of the guys that everybody thought was going to be a difference maker in this series. So.
Exactly.
And defenseman John Carlson said he expects Holtby to start tonight. He didn't even want to comment on the possibility of Grubauer going.
They don't want to face the facts that it might be Grubauer instead.
Yeah. But you know what, guys? I think tonight is going to be Ovechkin's night. I think he had such a. How many shots did he have in the first game? I mean, it seemed like he was buzzing, but just couldn't put the puck in the net.
He always has at least 12 shots a game, so I don't know what it was, but it was a lot. Yeah.
Like I thought he could have scored. Like 12.
Well, it's got to be. It's got to. I mean, this is the game where like similar to what we saw with Perry and Getzlaf. It's what you have to have. You have to have Backstrom and Ovechkin step up.
Yeah, and I thought one of the keys to that series was the Islanders getting production out of their young guys, and Brock Nelson, Ryan Strome scored goals in the win against the Caps. So if they keep doing that, then they take the pressure off of Tavares to be the center of the offense.
And you'll be right.
Ovi had 8 shots. He had 8 shots on that last game. So you got to figure that if he gets that many against tonight, he's going to score.
Yeah. He must have had 10 missed shots though, because he also missed the net a few times. I just think tonight's going to be Ovechkin's night. Book it. Remember that, guys. I think tonight he's going to have 2.
I think it's very safe. I think the Capitals will win tonight as well.
Yeah. Well, they have to. They can't go down 0-2 going back to Coliseum. That is one loud building, and they will not fare well there.
Yeah.
Down 0-2.
Building too.
Ovechkin has 2 to 3 goals.
That's asbestos.
But by winning game one, you know what happened? You know what happened by winning game one? We were assured one more game in Uniondale, right? Because now we're at least going 6. So there you go.
Well, go ahead, Josh.
Well, maybe not, but I think we are.
Now, I was just going to say he's going to have either a pair or 3 goals tonight. He's got 2 or 3 goals. I think it's Ovechkin's night tonight.
Well, game 1's 5 of the road teams won, 3 of the home teams won.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And the other thing is that after one night, all the series are 1-0. As well.
No ties, no overtime losses.
Yeah, no overtime losses. I know, and only one overtime game, which is also rare for the first game. Usually in the first round, the first game you have at least two or overtime games. So it was a double.
I was looking forward to that too. I wanted that first night. I was like, all right, I'm ready to be up till 3 in the morning.
Right, hunker down. You got I know you got the tea. You got all set. I'm ready to go. I'm gonna keep going.
I'm sad, Eck, because today is the last day, and we're gonna have to retire the NHL Draft Lottery Simulator.
I know.
So I have the final statistics after we run today's.
What do we? You have anything else, Josh?
Yes, I do, guys. A couple of news items. The Dallas Stars today inking rookie defenseman John Klingberg to a 7-year deal, $29.75 million contract, according to the Dallas Morning News. Actually, a really fair market deal for this kid, and he really blossomed in Dallas late in the season. And you know what? The kind of deal that he signed, I think, was a great deal for Dallas.
This is similar to the Roman Josi deal with Nashville a couple years ago. He had like one good year, and then they signed him to a long-term extension. I mean, I didn't see a lot of Klingberg, but everything I read said he had a pretty good season. So
I'll say this: Jim Hill is one of the smartest GMs out there. I think this is probably a great deal.
Some people have pointed this deal and saying that it's what Dougie Hamilton can get. No, Hamilton's getting more. Hamilton is gonna break the bank, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree with that. He's getting more for sure. Josh?
Yeah, I'm just looking up Klingberg's stats here. Who, like I said, he had a pretty damn good year this year, and his stats were he had. Well, let's see here. He had 11 goals, 29 assists, so 40 points in 65 games. That's not too shabby.
Yep.
No, and he's a really good puck-moving defenseman, which Dallas has a lot of. Dallas and the Flyers are both blessed with one kind of defenseman. But they actually play the same game. They both can move the puck up, but they can't keep the puck out. So
I think Dallas has been waiting for Goligoski to be this offensive defenseman for a long time, and he really it would seem to be. I mean, he put up decent points this year. I think he had about 30 points, and then you had Trevor Daley, who had an insane year this year, and Klingberg. I mean, that's 3 pretty damn good defensemen they have on the back end.
No, they do, but they can't play defense. So, but they're a great transition team.
Great offensive, yeah.
Awesome transition team.
Moving on, per Mike Agello's best friend, per TSN, Mike Agello's best friend Shanahan has received permission. I screwed that up to interview Arizona goaltender, goalie coach, and assistant GM Sean Burke. The news comes just days after Shanahan cleaned house in Toronto, turfing GM Dave Nonis, the entire coaching staff, and the majority of the Maple Leaf scouts. I call Shanahan Mike Agello's new best friend because this is what he wanted.
Okay.
All hail goaltenders. Goaltenders getting important positions, just proving once and for all that we are the most brilliant of all players.
Not that I would mind being Brendan Shanahan's new best friend, but I've met Brendan Shanahan once. So,
but you don't want to be his enemy, Mike. That's all.
I don't want to be his enemy, but I'm not sure if I want to be his best friend either. So okay, thank you.
The kind of guy that'll show a video of you doing something wrong and tell the world why. So just stay away from him.
Okay, and my final one of the day, this came out late yesterday, and I was kind of scratching my head a bit. Every year, usually the NHL will have their top 3 picks at the lottery, attending the lottery proceedings.
Yes.
This year, it's McDavid, Strome, and Hannafin. Jack Eichel is not attending Saturday's lottery proceedings, which I find kind of odd. Anyone know why he's not going to be there?
I don't know. Like you can speculate that he's getting ready to go to play in the Worlds. I'm wondering about that. That's what I was thinking about. That because Julie's heading over to the Worlds soon.
Or has he announced that he's leaving Boston U? I mean, if he hasn't, then that would be. I mean, Hannafin may have announced that he's leaving Boston College, but if
Yeah,
Eichel hasn't
I
announced
think
that
that he knows this is also McDavid's show, and I think that there's really no real reason for him to go there necessarily. It is funny though. You know what I love behind the scenes stuff I'd love for somebody to take a picture of all the team in the lottery that have a jersey made up already with McDavid's name on it and a hat, and they're all going to they're all sitting there waiting to give it to McDavid, so they can interview him with that, with his Bruins McDavid jersey on, every team in this thing has a jersey ready to go.
And
I think that's cool. Just saying. Sorry.
Also, I sent that lottery combinations thing to you guys.
Yes, the lottery combos by team are kind of just it's this whole numbering system. It comes down to the lottery simulator and the percentages, no matter how you slice. Mike, can you explain this at all? Maybe.
basically what they're going to do is they're going to put the 14 balls numbered 1 through 14 in the hopper, and pick 4 balls like the daily numbers.
Right.
And they have combinations already set up. So basically, if you pick 4,
I picked number 13.
if you pick if a combination of 4, they already have the combination set for each particular team, and that's how they determine who's going to get the number 1 pick. So
Okay.
Of 1,000 possible combinations, Buffalo has 200.
Okay.
Arizona has 135. Edmonton has 115. But Toronto has 95, et cetera, et cetera. So they don't have to put 1,000 balls because Josh stole them all. They've not put 1,000 balls in a hopper. They just pick out a combination of 4 balls, and that's it. That's all they have to do.
Is this why, Josh, you actually have a bin of ping pong balls with you?
There's your number, Mike. Maple Leafs, number 12. No, actually, I had my own lottery draft of my fantasy pool last night, and I had to label about 93 ping pong balls. So
Wow.
that's why I have all the.
What a life you lead, Josh.
That seems needlessly expensive.
Yes. Let's get to the draft lottery simulator, Ak.
What else? Anything else, Josh? We good?
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay. Draft lottery simulator this is the last. Now, Mike, before we do the last one here, give us the standings here. Who has won this thing over the year?
Well, let's do the last one, and
All
I
right.
can add it to the total.
You got it. We'll do the last one, and the winner is horrifying. Here we go.
Columbus. Oh, geez.
The winner is the Toronto Maple Leafs. 99.5% chance of winning the lottery. They've got 95 balls, which is more than most people thought they had, and they are in the. Sorry. Continue. All right, so Mike, let's fill this all out.
We ran the NHL Draft Lottery Simulator a grand total of 51 times. The
Woohoo!
Calgary Flames, when they were out of the playoffs, won it once.
Okay.
LA won it once. Ottawa, Columbus, and Dallas won it twice. San Jose, Edmonton, and Florida won it 3 times. Carolina and New Jersey won it 4 times. Buffalo won it 5 times, and Arizona won it 5 times. Philadelphia 6, and the Toronto Maple Leafs 10.
And that really sounds like we fixed this thing, but I swear to you, we have not. Like, I literally just hit the thing every night, and that's that. So if the Flyers and the Leafs came up top of this, it does sound like it's very fixed, but it's not. And, I guess it's just what the hockey gods want. So we'll see.
This whole thing, I don't know if you saw the picture that James Myrtle posted, but it had the probabilities for all 14 teams by percentages. It's like hilarious looking at the Bruins because it's 1% for the first overall, 99% that they're going to be picking 14th. I just thought that was like, oh, great.
Yeah.
There's a chance, I guess.
Well, yeah, they're the one team that really has no. Yeah, I mean they. But I don't even know how I would feel like. It's going to be very strange watching this and reacting to it. Like how you would feel if for some reason, like I mean, there are fan bases out there that expect it. Like that are sitting there like.
And we and we still don't know how they're going to reveal it. They haven't. The only thing I can think of is what they're going to do is they're going to reveal the top 3 picks in reverse order, because if they show anything more than that, if they say they reveal the top 3 and the third one is Arizona, then everybody from 4 down below is still.
They know that somebody weird has gotten the pick.
Right. So then Buffalo would get the number 2, and then the suspense is who gets number 1. If they show the bottom 5 and the 5th one is Toronto, then the more you reveal, the less the more revealing it is.
I think they just have to say this is the winner. I think that's the only way to really. I mean,
that seems anticlimactic. Okay, and the winner of the lottery is boom, and I'm like.
I think it should be walked. I think they should walk. They should have a woman, like one of those like ring girls who goes in between rounds, with a big logo thing, in a bikini and a feathered hat, come out, holding up above their head the logo of the team that won the lottery. I think that would be a good way to reveal it.
I don't remember how they used to do it. Like I remember Bill Daly opening envelopes and
showing us,
but I don't remember what the order was or how they broke it down.
There was because it was different before, where you could right. They would actually everybody could fall back, so they would go what? They would go like from 5 in or something like that, Mike, wouldn't they? Like
yeah, it was 5 in because only the top 5 could get up to number 1, and they would
right,
basically.
So
I remember
the top
like
5 can finish in any order, sort of. So then
I remember like James Duthie from TSN basically saying, okay, well all the picks from 6 to 14 stayed the same, so they just like wiped that clean, and then they went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So yeah, I mean they have to do something that keeps the suspense to the final pick, unless. I mean, the thing is, if Arizona is the number 2 pick and Edmonton's the number 3 pick, then everybody knows Buffalo won it.
Right.
So
I've only watched one of these in my entire life so far.
Yeah, same here. I've actually, I have to admit, and this is crazy, I have never watched one live. Ever.
Yeah.
I will watch this one obviously because this is such a crazy.
Well,
I think the ratings on this will be outstanding. I think that they.
Well, and then I believe it's going to be in the first period of the 7:00 game tomorrow night. And
is it it's going to break in like the local lottery?
yeah. I think the funny thing is I'm going to a concert tomorrow night in Buffalo, and I'll probably be at the 716 their sports bar outside the arena, packed with Sabre fans there to watch the lottery. And if the Sabres win the lottery, that place will be bedlam.
I just picture like lo-fi, like SD television, like this is Pat Gillian from Collingswood, New Jersey. She's been selected today to pick the lottery, and
yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, we'll see. I mean, I guess it's going to be crazy, and we'll be talking about it, of course, on Hockey Buzz, and who knows? Maybe we'll have to jump in and do a quick little podcast, Mike, or something after it. But we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out because
it's Sunday morning. We'll do a Sunday morning buzzcast.
Maybe. No, I don't think that's gonna happen. But maybe Saturday night during the games. Maybe in between the periods of a game, we'll jump on and do something real quick to discuss this. But yeah, I think that. You're going to a lottery party, Mike?
No, I'm going to see the Tragically Hip.
Right.
Concert at the arena.
You're not even going to be home for the lottery when your team could win the lottery?
The irony isn't lost on you, Mike. You're going to a concert of a band called the Tragically Hip during this lottery, does it?
Who wrote a song about the Leafs winning the Stanley Cup?
Yes, tragic and you and the lottery.
Thank you.
I can't wait.
He's not lost. Thank you, Ak.
Thank you. Got it. No problem. All right, that's all the time we have. Josh, good luck in your ventures, and we will. Josh isn't going away. We're just gonna not see him as often. And he'll be back though, and probably be back, for the UFA day or maybe the draft, or you never know what's going to happen here. So remember,
he'll be back with his wig.
But thanks so much, Josh, for everything you've done. You've done a great job. It's been fantastic having you.
Always enjoy it.
Awesome. Remember, guys, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you soon.